Welcome to the Shadow Talks. Without wasting time, let's go to the video. Have you ever loved a place so much that it felt safe until one night it suddenly didn't? Have you ever felt like someone was watching you from the dark, just out of sight? And have you ever had a friend vanish without leaving a single trace behind? Growing up, my friends and I had a secret hangout behind an abandoned grade school, a lonely baseball field the town never fixed or used. Most of us didn't have good home lives, so that field became our place to breathe. We'd sit on the rusty bleachers at night, smoking, joking, and pretending everything was fine. There was a single old lamp by the bleachers that somehow still worked. It cast a dull orange glow over us, but everything else was swallowed by darkness. Sometimes, especially when I got too high, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone in the woods was watching us. I'd stare into the black tree line, imagining eyes staring back. One summer night, Johnny and I planned to hang out at the field. I arrived first, walked through the woods, and waited. 10 minutes, then 40. I smoked and tried to relax, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. Eventually, I jogged back to my car and drove home. Johnny never texted back. The next morning, he still hadn't replied. Nobody had seen him. A day passed, then another. Search teams combed the town and the woods, but there was nothing. No body, no clues. He was just gone. We told ourselves maybe he ran away, but deep down, I knew he wouldn't leave without a sign. After about a month, I went back to the field alone. I was angry and tired of feeling scared, but when I stepped into the clearing, I froze. There were 4 people there. 3 sat perfectly still on the bleachers, not moving at all. And the fourth was dancing. He wasn't dancing normally. He moved like he was overly happy, skipping around, almost childish. At the time, I thought he was high. Now I think he was insane. Something about his face felt familiar, like I had seen him before, but not in real life, more like in a dream. When I slipped away toward the school parking lot, a car sat there, same model Johnny drove. As I stared at it, the headlight suddenly flicked on. Panic shot through me. I jumped in my car and sped home. Later that summer, I was flipping through my yearbook because I missed Johnny. And there he was, the dancing man, clear as day, dressed as a janitor in the background of a sports photo. The cops checked his information, but nothing came up. It was like he didn't exist. One early morning, I saw him again at Dunkin' Donuts. Same face, same smile. He rushed outside and someone in a car picked him up. As it drove off, I saw the license plate. Johnny's plate. 4-pack 207. Same car I'd seen earlier, repainted. That was the last time I ever saw anything connected to Johnny. What would you do if you were miles deep in a forest with no cell service, and a set of headlights appeared at 2 a.m., followed by whispering voices you couldn't explain? This is what happened to us in Tate's hell. In the summer of 2024, my friends Jake, Sam, Marcus, and I were exhausted from working internships at the Kennedy Space Center. We wanted a break, just one peaceful night under the stars. We looked up the darkest spots on the light pollution map and picked a clearing deep inside Tate's Hell State Forest, a swampy, isolated place with a creepy legend behind its name. We drove 30 miles from our Airbnb, me in my Tesla, Marcus in his Mustang. There was no cell service, so we used walkie-talkies to communicate. The dirt roads were narrow and surrounded by tall pines and swamp air. Around 2 a.m. we reached the clearing. The stars looked unreal, bright enough to feel like we were floating in space. We laid down blankets, set up the telescope, and relaxed for the first time in weeks. Then Sam's voice came through the walkie. "Do you guys see those headlights?" Far down the trail, a faint glow appeared, slowly moving toward us. "Nobody is out there at 2 a.m. by accident." I flashed my brights. The truck stopped about 100 yards away. A few people stepped out and stared at us. No wave, no sound. Then a whisper started. Low, broken voices drifting through the swamp. We packed up fast and moved to another clearing. But minutes later, Marcus whispered into the walkie, "They're back." The same headlights, getting closer. The truck revved its engine like it wanted us to hear it. We all ran to our cars. I floored my Tesla over roots and mud while Marcus shouted that the truck was right behind us. They didn't speed, they just followed, steady and calm, like they enjoyed the chase. Finally, the dirt road turned to pavement. We reached the highway and stopped. The truck was gone. No lights, no engine, nothing. We made it back to the cabin, but that night changed how I feel about dark roads forever. Have you ever stayed somewhere completely alone, with every hallway silent, every room empty, and the feeling that something ancient was watching you? This is what I experienced in a mountain hotel in Japan. In December 2023, I took a 3-week trip to Japan. My family owns a traditional hotel near Kaga Onsen, sitting on a hill beside the Daishoji River. When it was being built, workers found old stones and pillars, remains of a shrine from centuries ago. I drove from Kanazawa through heavy snow. What should have been an hour took almost 2. When I finally arrived around 8 p.m., the hotel was silent. Winter is the slow season, and there were no staff working that night. The whole building was empty. The next morning, I went hiking in the forest below the hotel. The snow was deep and hard to walk through. Eventually, I got completely lost. No signal, no clear paths, just trees and white silence in every direction. I saw a steep hill and climbed it to get a better view. Halfway up, I found a narrow, old-looking path, almost hidden by plants and snow. I followed it to the top, where it suddenly ended. As I looked around, I noticed something behind the brush. A small cave entrance cut into the hillside. It was barely big enough to crawl into, but curiosity won. I crouched and went inside. Inside was a stone chamber with a large rectangular block. Farther in was a bigger room, with 2 tunnels branching off. At the back was another stone block, this one hollow. Inside were human bones. Old bronze coins lay around them, and a long, rusted piece of metal that looked like it used to be a sword. I picked up one of the coins without thinking. Then a loud crash echoed from one of the tunnels. The smell in the cave suddenly changed, like a wild animal had just walked in. A deep thumping sound began from the darkness, growing louder. I panicked. I grabbed the rusted metal piece and ran out of the cave, sliding down the snowy slope. I waved down a passing car, and the driver took me back to the hotel. I packed immediately and left for Kanazawa. When the hotel reopened in February, my father called me. Someone had broken in through a ground floor window. Nothing was stolen, nothing was touched, except one thing. The door to my room, the one I stayed in, had been smashed open with something heavy. I don't know what followed me out of that cave, but I'm never staying there again.